They should also be here, at one point of time where these children are sitting, who are representing MUN, Ompee International School today. So it is with immense pride and joy I welcome you all for the intra-school VoxMUN Ompee School Model United Nations Conference 25-26.
I encourage each delegate to speak with confidence, listen with respect, and make the most of this opportunity. Wishing you all a successful and enriching MUN experience. Thank you. Now, I would like to call the Secretary General of our committee, Aryan Pratap Singh, to address the committee.
Good morning, esteemed delegates, respected faculty members. I am Aryan from grade 9, and it is my pleasure, along with my Deputy Chair, Baba, to preside over this distinguished session of United Nations Security Council. Today, we have not gathered as students, but we have gathered as representatives of nations entrusted with the responsibility to address some of the most critical challenges to global peace and security. I urge upon each delegate to engage with intellect, respect, and diplomacy so they can together craft a resolution worthy of the United Nations. Thank you.
Present. Delegate of Algeria. Yes. Delegate of Korea. Yes. Delegate of Iran.
Now let's proceed with the lesson.
Honorable Chairs, esteemed delegates, diplomacy is the art of letting someone else have your way. United Nations stands at a crossroad not of indecision but of a strategic recalibration. We are no longer chasing the endless escalation. We are choosing the bold diplomacy. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has fractured Eastern Europe, strained global alliances, and has tested the very fabric of international laws. Millions displaced, economies disrupted, and trust eroded. Yet, we believe peace is possible. Our position is clear. We support a negotiated ceasefire, conditional sanctions, relief, and a diplomatic rest with Moscow. These are not concessions. They are the calculated steps towards stability. Some may question our softer stance, but let me be clear. Sustainable peace demands compromises, not condemnations. We will not abandon Ukraine's sovereignty, and we will either not ignore geopolitical reality. So I urge this council, let us move beyond entrenched narratives. Let us prioritize lines over lines on a map. Let us lead not with weapons but with wisdom. Thank you.
Also challenge the prevailing narrative that has for far too long been shaped by the outrage and Western bias. On the matter of Ukraine, Russia's position is clear and consistent. Our actions were not driven by aggression, but out of necessity. Since 2014, we have witnessed systematic marginalization and oppression of Russian-speaking communities in Ukraine. The Minsk Agreement, which sought a peaceful resolution, was not disregarded but weaponized as a state tactic. NATO's relentless expansion eastward, despite previous certainty, posed a direct threat to our national security. Russia was left with little choice but to act in defense of its sovereignty, people, and regional stability. We do not seek endless wars. We seek a neutral, demilitarized Ukraine, one that does not serve as a proxy battlefield for foreign ambitions. Russia remains open to meaningful dialogues, but such discussions must be grounded in mutual respect and recognition of legitimate security interests. We urge this committee to view the conflict not through the lenses of alliances, but through the lenses of justice, sovereignty, and human dignity. The Russian Federation calls upon all nations to rise above ideological dedication and work towards de-escalation, diplomacy, and durable peace, not just in Ukraine, but wherever conflicts festers in the shadow of geopolitical games.
The conflict in Ukraine did not emerge in a vacuum. It is the product of decades of unresolved security concerns, most notably the eastward expansion of NATO despite repeated warnings from Russia since the 1990s. According to UN data, over 14,000 lives were lost in eastern Ukraine between 2014 and 2021, long before the escalation of February 2022. We, as the international community, must uphold principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity consistently. When territorial changes occur in Eastern Europe, the world responds with sanctions and outrage. Yet similar violations in other regions, whether in Palestine, Syria or Yemen, are met with silence or selective framing. India's stance remains rooted in neutrality, dialogue and diplomacy. We have delivered over 90 tons of humanitarian aid to Ukraine and continue to engage all parties. Our call is simple. Rules must be universal, not tailored to the convenience of blocs. The principle of non-interference is a cornerstone of the UN Charter and reaffirmed in UNGA Resolution 2625. It demands that no state intervene in the political, economic and social scene. Thank you.
Esteemed delegates, the delegate of People's Republic of China wishes to reaffirm our unwavering commitment to the principles of non-interference in sovereign affairs, a foundation of international law and diplomacy. The Ukraine conflict, which began on February 24, 2022, has deeply impacted the global stability. China, as a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, has constantly advocated for peaceful resolutions, sovereignty, and dialogue. We maintain a strategic partnership with Russia, rooted in mutual respect and multipolar cooperation. China has welcomed negotiations in the previous meeting of the United Nations Security Council held in Istanbul, support humanitarian effects, and call for ceasefire and diplomacy. Our foreign ministry has clearly stated China is not a party to the Ukraine issue. China's approach, guided by neutrality, stability, and vision for a balanced global order, we oppose unilateral sanctions and reject the politicization of global trade and energy. As Ukraine's GDP has fallen from 29.1% in 2022, we are concerned for the world. And these trade restrictions could be highly vulnerable for trade-dependent countries such as India and China. Let us not depend on divides, but also build up bridges. China stands for peace, sovereignty, and constructive engagement, not for conflict. Thank you.
By force. This invasion was self-defense. It was not approved by the UN. In 1994, Russia promised to respect Ukraine's border under the Budapest Memorandum. The promise was broken. This war has forced more than 10 million people from their homes and damaged food supplies for the whole world. Japan has given over 7 billion in aid to Ukraine, food, medical help, shelter, and farming support. We are not doing this for politics, but for people suffering. Japan calls for immediate stop for fighting and full withdrawal of Russian troops, says humanitarian corridors for civilian and aid get more freely. Justice for war crimes, including the illegal taking of Ukrainian children. Peace is not just stopping the guns. Peace must also mean justice and respect for law. Without that, this war will happen again somewhere else. Japan will work with all members to bring back Ukraine's sovereignty and protect the rules that keep every nation safe. Thank you.
It is a lived reality. We have seen how a single strike can shatter a city. That is why we guard three principles above all: sovereignty, dialogue, and security. The Russia-Ukraine war violates the fourth, strains the second, and threatens the third. We stand firmly against the Russian Federation invasion of Ukraine, a breach of the international law. It has driven over 10.6 million Ukrainians from their homes, cut 29% of the world's wheat exports, and 62% of sunflower oil from the market, and brought Iranian drones into Ukraine's skies, a danger that resonates far beyond Europe. Yet, our reality demands strategic caution. Since 2015, Israel has conducted hundreds of precision strikes in Syria to block Iranian arms to Hezbollah, enabled by a real-time deconfliction lines with Russian forces, a coordination that shielded millions of our citizens. By March 2024, the US and allies had committed $380 billion to Ukraine, including $180 billion in weapons. Israel, instead of arms, has delivered 100 tons of humanitarian aid, built a field hospital, and granted refuge to 85,000 Ukrainians with an extended visa. Our diplomacy is quiet but active. Broker UN-led ceasefire talks, expand humanitarian corridors, protect civilian infrastructure. Our ideas. Peace is not won by choosing side. It is won by breaking sides.
The future of the world is being decided right now on the battlefield in Ukraine. This is a quote from Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine. Today, among us is taking place a big conflict caused by Russia. The illegal full-scale invasion of Ukraine, to which Russia says it's just an attempt to demilitarize us and denazify us. First, to these claims, all that we want to say is that your demilitarization just means that you're trying to disarm us from defending our citizens. And for our denazification, all that we want to say
Palestine speaks today not only as a representative of a nation, but as the voice of a people who have endured decades of occupation, displacement, and daily injustice. For over 70 years, we have waited for the promises made in this very chamber to be upheld, for the principles of the UN Charter to protect our rights, not just recognize them in words. Our people live under siege, our land is occupied, and our basic freedom are denied. Yet, despite this suffering, we have not given up on diplomacy or the belief in international law. We are told to respect the sovereignty of others, yet we ask, where is our sovereignty? Palestine says what every nation in this council claims for itself, to live as a sovereign state with East Jerusalem as its capital based on the 1967 borders. This is not a technical demand, it is a legal right affirmed in countless resolutions and international agreements. Non-interference must never be used as a shield for injustice. When laws are broken and rights are lost, silence is neutrality, it is complicity. Silence is not neutrality, it is complicity. We urge this council to act out of politics, but out of principle.
Distinguished delegates, France speaks today as a permanent member of this council and as a defender of the principles on which it stands. The Russian Federation's invasion of Ukraine is a direct violation of the UN Charter and every principle of sovereignty this council is sworn to protect. No provocation, no political grievance can justify the forceful annexation of another nation's territory. In 1994, Ukraine gave up the world's third largest nuclear arsenal for a promise of security, a promise that Russia signed and then broke. Today, millions are displaced, cities are destroyed, and children are being illegally taken across borders. France calls for immediate unconditional withdrawal of Russian forces, UN-supervised humanitarian corridors for civilians and aid, accountability for war crimes, peace based on justice, not on rewarding aggression. If we allow one state to withdraw borders, will not stand for that. Thank you.
Honorable Chair, fellow delegates, as the delegate of Denmark, I stand before you today deeply concerned by the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Denmark strongly condemns Russia's invasion of Ukraine. It is not just an attack on a neighboring country, it is an attack on international law, on human rights, and on the values this very assembly was built to protect. We believe that borders must never be changed by force. Ukraine has every right to defend its sovereignty and its people, and Denmark will continue to support that right. We have provided humanitarian aid, military support, and we have stood firmly with our EU and NATO partners in applying sanctions against the Russian Federation. But while we stand strong, we also stand for peace. We urge to find a diplomatic solution that brings a real, lasting end to the violence. one that ensures accountability, justice, and respect for Ukraine's independence. This crisis affects more than just Eastern Europe. It is a test of whether we, as the international community, are willing to act when our core principles are under threat. Denmark is ready to work with every nation here to help bring this conflict to an end.
It's not just about borders or politics. It's about broken supply chains, rising costs, and everyday lives disrupted. For Pakistan, the impact has been real and immediate. LNG suppliers have backed out of fields, leaving us to pay much higher prices for fuel. Wheat imports, almost 40% of which came from UK, have stopped, putting pressure on food security. Inflation is rising and planning for the future has become harder. Pakistan has long-standing defense cooperation with UK, built over years of technical exchange and arms agreement. At the same time, we are working to grow our economic ties with Russia, especially in the energy sector. In 2023, we received our first shipment of Russian crude oil, a crucial step towards easing our energy crisis. These relationships aren't symbolic, they're practical and they matter to our people. That's why Pakistan proposes a clear way forward, inclusive diplomacy that listens to all sides, protection of civilian infrastructure, and reopening of grain and energy corridors. We urge the global community to focus on real solutions, ones that restore trade, improve humanitarian access, and bring stability back to the region. Pakistan is ready to play a constructive role in any effort that eases suffering and helps reopen.
The GS stands deeply concerned over the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict, a war that has caused catastrophic human suffering, established global security, and has shaken the very principles of the UN Charter. The problem is clear. Continued hostilities are eroding trust between nations, creating ripple effects on food security, energy markets, and the global economy. This impact is undeniable. Thousands of innocent lives lost, millions displaced, and critical supply chains disrupted, hitting the most vulnerable nations the hardest. Algeria believes the solution lies in immediate, unconditional dialogue under the UN supervision, coupled with sustainable ceasefire and establishment of humanitarian corridors to protect civilians. We all call on parties to respect the international law, preserve the sovereignty of states, and prioritize diplomacy over destruction. The world does not need another Cold War. It needs a united front of peace. Algeria reaffirms its commitment to neutrality, mediation, and just resolution that serves the interests of both regional stability and global harmony.
Chairman, esteemed delegates, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea addresses this committee as a nation that understands the cost of independence in a world divided by power blocks. The problem caused by wars are clear: displacement of civilians, economic hardship, arms races, and violation of sovereignty. These issues prolong instability and make peaceful development impossible. North Korea calls for an immediate end to hostile policies, include sanctions and military exercises near our borders. We urge all nations to engage in sincere dialogue based on mutual respect and non-interference. Only through diplomacy, respect for sovereignty, and cooperation can we achieve lasting peace and security in Northeast Asia and beyond. Thank you.
Honorable Chair, esteemed delegates, the Cooperative Republic of Ghana stands before this committee to be upon by the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine. As a peace-loving nation and advocate for international laws, this war has not only resulted in human suffering, displacement, but also disturbed global food and energy security, issues that deeply affected developing nations like us. We call for immediate ceasefire and a recommitment to peaceful negotiation. Furthermore, we argue all nations to support the protection of civilization and restoration of peace. in our region, Guyana remains committed to supporting multilateral efforts towards justice, peace, and the rule of international law.
Russia and Ukraine. UK is deeply concerned about the Russia and Ukraine war. The United Kingdom condemns the Russian Federation invasion of Ukraine as a flagrant breach of international laws and direct threat to rule-based international order. The UK considers Russia's actions a violation of the 1994 Budapest Memorandum, under which Russia committed to respect Ukraine's sovereignty and existing borders in exchange for Ukraine relinquishing its nuclear arsenal. The United Kingdom believes that any resolution to this conflict must be grounded in international laws and uphold the sovereign rights of the Ukraine. We believe that solutions are inclusive, evidence-based, sustainable, respectful of international laws. The UK encourages all member states to work together on solutions on Russia-Ukraine war. We are open to collaboration, negotiations, and finding actions reasonable that reflect the spirit of this assembly. Let us remember that our strength lies not in our differences, but in our collective determination that decides it.
India would like to raise a motion for the establishment of moderated caucus with the total time being 30 minutes and individual speakers time being 2 minutes on the topic non-interference in government affairs and internal governance.
Who all are agreeing with this motion?
Republic of China stands firm in the support of sovereignty, non-interference and peaceful resolution, principles deeply rooted in the UN Charter. The Russia-Ukraine conflict, which began on February 24, 2022, has caused immense global disruption. China, under President Xi Jinping, has constantly promoted dialogue over confrontation. We are not party to the issue, and our position remains neutral, constructive and peace-oriented. In 2020, China and Russia jointly opposed the foreign interference under the responsibility to protect framework, emphasizing respect for national governance. In 2021, both nations declared a no-limit partnership, strengthening cooperation in energy, trade and diplomacy. By 2022, China became Russia's largest trading partner, with bilateral trade reaching $190 billion, a 29% increase from the previous year. In 2024, China hit a record of $244 billion, with 48.58% of Chinese imports being Russian oil. In 2025, from January to April, trade totaled $71 billion despite global changes. China has signed new 30 agreements with Russia, expanding cooperation in education, banking and energy. Our Foreign Minister Yang Hui in July 2025 stated, Russia's defeat is unacceptable for China as it would totally shift the global pressure entirely on us. Our Foreign Ministry, led by Mao Ning, has also proclaimed that China has never provided lethal weapons and strictly controls dual-use exports. Ukraine understands this well. Let us choose dialogue over division and peace over provocations. China is ready to work with all nations to restore stability and uphold the international norms. Thank you.
UN Charter and reaffirmed in the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 2625. It demands that no state intervenes in the political, economic or social systems of another without consent. Yet, this principle is often broken by those who claim to protect it. We have seen military interventions, economic operations political manipulation dressed as humanitarian action. The same actors who warn against influence in their own domestic politics activity seek to shape the policies of sovereign nation elsewhere. For India, the principle is not theoretical. Our decisions, whether to maintain strategic partnerships, purchase energy from certain suppliers, or mediate in conflicts, are grounded in our national interests and democratic will. Non-interference is not optional. If we expect respect for our borders, governance, and policy choices, we must grant the same respect to others, irrespective of whether we agree with it politically or ideologically. Selective application of sovereign ruins trust. A true commitment to non-interference demands consistency, even if when it is inconvenient. Thank you.
When sovereignty is violated, chaos follows. We have seen in Libya, Iraq, and Syria nations torn apart, not because of their people, but because of their external agendas. Algeria stands firmly with its allies in the defending of the principle that no country, regardless of the size or power, has the right to dictate the internal governments of political unrest. Interference undermines stability and fuels extension. Such actions violate the fundamental rights of nations to determine their destiny. Algeria calls on international community to respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity with all states without exception. True peace and development can only be achieved when countries are free from external modeling. We urge all nations to uphold the UN Charter and reject any form of interference distinct as humanitarian intervention or regime change. These justifications have repeatedly led to destruction, suffering, and got no solution. Thank you.
The delegate of Palestine affirms the importance of non-interference in the sovereign affairs and internal governance of states. As a principle rooted in the UN Charter, it protects the dignity, independence, and territorial integrity of nations. However, for Palestine, the very nation of sovereignty remains a dream continually denied. For over 7 decades, the Palestinian people have lived under occupation not by a foreign invader claiming to intervene, but by a power that has systematically worked to erase our sovereignty altogether. The principle of non-interference should protect our right to self-govern, to determine our own political future, and to live free from domination. Yet this right is denied to us daily. We ask the Council to reflect how can sovereignty be respected if it is never recognized in the first place. Moreover, Palestine believes that non-interference must not be misused as a cover to ignore violation of international law. When a people are denied their basic rights, when homes are demolished, borders closed, and elections obstructed, not by internal failure but by external control, then silence is the name of non-interference becomes complicity. We are not asking for special treatment. We are demanding equal recognition. A state's right to internal governance must include Palestine's right to exit a sovereign state with full control over its territory, borders, and political future, free from occupation, external influence, and double standards. Palestine calls on this council to reform not only the principle of non-interference but also the right of all peoples, including Palestinians, to govern themselves without fear, foreign control, or occupation. Let sovereignty apply to all, or it means nothing to all. Thank you.
The Russian Federation affirms the non-interference in the sovereign affairs is not optional. It is a foundation of invasions in Libya, Iraq, and Kosovo. Often without UNSC consent, driven by the geopolitical agendas rather than genuine peace. External interference in Ukraine's internal governance through political engineering, sanctions, in the crisis. We call upon all nations to respect sovereignty, reject double standards, and resolve the dispute through dialogue, not coercion. Non-interference is enshrined by the Article 2, Part 7 of UN Charter. No state should intervene in the matters essentially without domestic jurisdiction of another state.
This motion.
OmpeeMUN condemns Russia for waging war against Ukraine. I would like to raise some points against Russia. What does Russia say about illegal annexation of Crimea in 2014, which violated international law and Ukraine's sovereignty? Russia has repeatedly violated Ukraine's sovereignty, even though they signed 1994 protest memorandum under which Russia committed to respect Ukraine's sovereignty and effective borders in exchange for Ukraine relinquishing its nuclear arsenal. But even then,
The Russia-Ukraine war, which began on February 24, 2022, under the leadership of President Vladimir Putin, who called NATO's eastward expansion and regional security concerns as the key reasons for initiating a war with a special military operation with Ukraine. The conflict rapidly escalated, reshaping global alliances and economic flows. China, NATO President Xi Jinping, is a global superpower and a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. It is to be noted that the war's escalation in Russia, as claimed by the delegate of US, the delegate of UK, and the delegate of France, is a key threat to is a response to Russia's expansion and is done so that NATO's eastward expansion stops. Our foreign ministry, led by Mao has claimed China is not a party to the Ukraine issue, and Russia and China have established global ties.
But no nation is allowed to annex its neighbors, and in the name of protecting their cultural or historical provinces. Ukraine is one of the biggest food grains exporters, so the attack of Russia have harmed Ukraine. The Lord is on NATO now, because now they have to supply food grains into the countries which import them and into the countries which export them. Thank you.
The delegate of China.
The prior permission of the executive board, the delegate of China would like to suspend common debate and start an open house debate for 30 minutes.
Motion passed.
Agreeing to this motion.
You have claimed that you provide military aid to Ukraine, but you have also raised up your oil budgets from $20 billions to 60 billions. How would you justify this?
We have provided the funds to Ukraine because Russia invaded it, and it was the clearly humanitarian violation of humanitarian laws. Millions of the people was died, and to manage the economy of the country we funded them. It was clearly for their self-defense.
The delegate of USA, you have stated that you are supporting Ukraine. I guess you haven't understood my question well. Why are you then providing some kind of monetary aid to Russia? Please justify your stance.
We are providing the aid to Russia because Russia is the oil exporter of the globe. Russia is exporting 30% of the oil in the world. So to maintain the economy of the globe, we are providing the aid to Russia. But they are indirectly from the Turkey.
I guess if you try to maintain the Russian economy, why would you send 3 nuclear submarines near the Russian oceans? Please justify your stance on this.
It was earlier that we sent the nuclear submarines to the Russian ocean, but now in the rule of Donald Trump, we are here supporting peace instead of the violence.
Point of information, EB. The 3 submarines or the nuclear submarine have been sent in the Trump era. You can check it on the web itself. But the delegate of USA stated that this was done before the Trump era. So you could please justify us.
It was instead of that, it was done to pressurize Russia to do the ceasefire, to defend the lives.
I agree with you. I in fact appreciate the point that you presented. But ceasefire could also be done using peaceful measures. Why sending 3 submarines? After all, they have even settled the war between Cambodia and Thailand. Why not Russia and Ukraine? And why isn't Russia responding to your responses? You claim yourself as a global superpower. Why isn't your claims working this time? Please justify your stance.
And agreed for the ceasefire when Ukraine denied it, and Donald Trump clearly stated that the Ukraine president Zelensky is a dictator.
So you have to claim. And point of information, his name is Vladimir Zelensky.
It was the statement was given by NBC News.
I would like, first of all, delegate, NBC News is not a verified source. We include only the news from CNN, BBC News, according to the rules of the moderated caucus, or means the model United Nations. Please justify your stance. I had some more questions with the Western hypocrisy regarding Israel. I would request the Israeli delegate. Delegate, I have heard that Israel is your president, Benjamin Netanyahu, recently in an interview claimed that there is no starvation in Gaza, and they have reported many millions of clips are circulating on the internet claiming that there is starvation going in Gaza. How do I justify this?
So, Myanmar's aggressive military and sanction policies contribute to escalating tensions, while the economic backlash harms its own citizens. It lacks the independent diplomatic efforts, shows a tendency to follow larger powers rather than lead.
Why did it stop it since it was a global power?
US, you had also invited Pakistan's Defense Minister Asim Munir in your White House. How can you justify this? China is protecting the sovereignty of Pakistan because it's a weak nation, and we have to look at peace resolutions. The US claimed that it had a ceasefire in the India-Pakistan war, but I don't see a clear stance. Neither BBC News has claimed it, neither India or Pakistan have claimed it. I personally believe the transferring of Chinese technologies and our weapons was to protect Pakistan's legitimacy. As there are no specific claims that the terrorist group which invaded India had some link with Pakistan. I would request you to justify your stance. The question you raised about I told you about the Asim Munir thing. You have raised a question to me that why am I supporting Pakistan, but even you have claimed to support Pakistan by inviting Pakistan's defense minister.
We have invited the Indian ministers for that ceasefire, and it was clearly shown that India has agreed for the ceasefire.
Delegate, similarly, even China at the Shanghai Cooperation had invited India, the defense minister Mr. Rajnath also visited us along with the Pakistani defense minister. So I believe China is looking at a peace resolution at the Shanghai Cooperation. Thank you very much. Any other questions from the USLI?
That what are they doing for the safety of the civilians? While UK, US, France send arms to Saudi, led Saudi-led coalition. They ignored the UN warning. Civilian casualties are airstrike were underreported.
Can you repeat it once more?
US, UK, France send arms to the Saudi-led. I still didn't understand your question.
How does Russia recall its suppression of NGOs like Amnesty International with its stated commitment to human rights?
Please send the question to Jits. I still cannot understand. You can ask a different question.
And the ongoing military actions in Ukraine under international law.
US and
So we can't, if something, if a war breaks out, so we can help others. Can you justify this stance?
But you have claimed pacifism. If you have claimed pacifism, you cannot extend your benefit on that. Pacifism means the system of war or expanding
If a country shows expanding its military, it would not be as proud as the other countries. So it would be easier to target or invade. Because
Historical denials regarding wartime atrocities. It's actually the follow-up question by the North Korea, delegate of North Korea. Can you please answer?
we're talking about historical events, like the Nazi massacre.
Yeah.
We are not here to discuss. We are here to discuss the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Not the events which happened centuries ago. This event is not related to this conflict in any way.
Actually, you have told me some like related copy-paste lines. Can you please explain what you have just said? Please justify.
We are talking about the Nazi massacre, which happened centuries ago. We are here to discuss the Russia and Ukraine conflict. So it does not justify that we should talk about the.
Delegate, we gave an example of the war you stated just now.
You cannot just copy-paste the answer. I mean, you give a justification. That's not the justification.
Maybe you can research the data and can get back to them.
I believe the same delegate was having a question.
I have a question to Russia. Which is the irony that Russia is talking about the violation of UN Charter. Can you justify your stance? Because you have violated almost every UN Charter. And by invading Ukraine. The line goes, this is a clear violation of UN Charter. But what's the irony? Because Russia is talking about the violation of UN Charter.
Let me explain. Russia is already violating the UN Charter. Then how come
There is a number specified about the charter. Please. You need to tell the exact official source.
Delegate, you will have a printed version of whatever you are stating, and it's official. You have it?
I don't.
Alright, so you cannot justify your stance again. Sorry.
It is a common sense that Russia has invaded Ukraine and
Russia has invaded Ukraine to prevent NATO's eastward expansion and the causing threats done by the United States, I believe. This is a matter to protect the integrity and the national sentiments of Russia.
the UK Charter,
UK no, it's UN.
the UN Charter doesn't exactly say this that you have to annex other countries' territory to save yours.
delegate, US has from the starting been causing threats to Russia and the NATO alliances in which you are also part. The first move came with the stopping of this trade with Russia. And the second of all is, as you would be aware, Donald J. Trump has recently said in an interview that whoever would be supporting BRICS or Russia would face a 100% tariff. I don't think Russia has a wrong stance in starting a war because it has always been discriminated. All of the BRICS alliance, I believe, as South Africa has been discriminated on the basis of their color or the racism. China has been discriminated since centuries. It has been brutally colonized. That what we call the century of humiliation. And in the previous months, the US also has raised their tariffs up to 145%. Also, the chip war that America has put censorships on the flowing of for economic information and technology. And for India, it's going in the present 50% tariffs for a growing economy, which constitute about 13% of the world's total GDP. I don't think Russia's stance on starting a war is basically wrong.
Besides, the core principle of the UN Charter is non-interference in China. Is enshrined in the Article 2, Part 7 of the UN Charter. No state should intervene in the matter essentially within the domestic jurisdiction of the other state. But US was the one who asked the
like to answer this to the judge. I'll answer. You have stated that sanctions were basically tariffs were developing countries. So does global instability, food shortages, and energy crisis all caused by the Russian war.
Yeah, sure. The Russian-Ukraine war has started because of the prevailing tensions which has been built up between Russia and Ukraine. We are also meeting at a peace clause between the two nations. It's the meeting in Alaska, as you would be aware about it. So we are not basically promoting terrorism or neither we are promoting this food insecurity. We are just promoting Russia only wants two parts of Russia, Ukraine, which would be discussed in the Alaska meeting today. If Ukraine gives its through peace initiatives, then it would be better. And if not, Russia has its own personal concerns and
Actually, willingness to allow or even encourage ongoing conflicts. If doing so creates a space for in advance of its own interests.
Delegate, first of all, you have created many pauses between the question that was proposed. That's completely fine and totally understand. It would be really good, I would appreciate that if you could state the sentence and provide an answer or a proof or an example if you can find which is relevant to the already.
I would like to give the answer to the related to China. As you stated that the countries have discriminated you and you gave an example of South Africa. So discrimination doesn't mean that you start a war and they kill millions of people. And it is harming the global, the whole globe. As you know, the Ukraine and Russia, they both have the NBBS hubs and the major food exporters.
Alright, I know these exports are basically from Ukraine. I do agree with this. Discrimination, we are not promoting the war for discrimination. We are promoting the war for future sustainable development, and so the next generation don't have to face the same kind of centuries of humiliations that our ancestors have faced. Our war isn't for basically creating food insecurity. Fight itself with Russia. Why isn't Ukraine then forcing it, as Russia is a whole military power? China ranks third, Russia is the second largest military power, and US is the first. If we combine our forces, we can easily annex Ukraine. Very easily. Trust me. And we have even won the war against US, the tech war, which the US took 100 years to beat Britain from. So we are clearly more advanced, and we don't even want the territory. But we don't really want that same basic things which happened previously should happen with our next generations, like they're happening now. What is this 140% tariff, 50% tariff?